Uh, who is TT? Hello, TT?
Mr. Hurt.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why this came. I don't know why this came up as some TT. I'm gonna log out and try to log back in.
Yeah, it said TT.
You're right. Look, I don't even know where that came from.
I don't know either. Let me try to get this light.
I'm gonna try to log. All right, I'm gonna log out and log back in.
No, all you gotta do is stay on. I'll put you on mute. We can just stay there. Okay? Unless you have to go do something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I'll just put you on mute.
Okay, there you go.
Chat, reactions. Is that any better? Can you see him now, Commissioner?
You probably have to swipe because you're on your phone. Swipe. No, it's not yet. There you go.
Gotcha. Mr. Hurt?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute everybody. So hopefully, I don't know whether they can hear you now.
Mr. Spiritus, can you hear me?
I'm going to
Mr.
unmute him.
Spiritus.
Let me unmute him.
Okay, yeah, he's unmuted now. Mr. Spiritus, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
I
good.
can hear you. I'm unmuting you. I've unmuted everyone at this point.
Great.
Can everyone check to see? Oh, let me see Delva. Commissioner Thomas, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Attorney Russell?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Thurman?
I'm here.
Okay. Commissioner Spiritus?
I'm here.
Okay. Miss Lockhart, can you hear?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear.
Okay. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let me check these
Thank you.
others.
It's a pleasure.
User, are you here? Marion Dozier, can you hear? Well, I have them unmuted. I don't.
Well, I don't see Marion.
I don't either.
I don't see Marion, and also there's another user on that I don't see. However,
They got the video on their computer.
2, 3. I'm not quite sure whether Commissioner Towns is going to join us this evening. I spoke with him earlier, and he was a little under the weather, so he may not join us.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
In that event, Chairman Jackson, we do have a quorum at this time. If you'd like to move forward, but may I just make a statement to all? Ms.
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
thank you for joining us. I have not received any certification of your appointment yet.
Okay.
Okay, you can gladly join us for the meeting tonight, but unless our attorney says different, I don't believe that you can participate as a commissioner at this point.
I understand.
Okay, but thank you for joining us, and hopefully you can get a feel going forward. I'm awaiting a letter of appointment, a certificate of appointment from the mayor or the city clerk. I've not received either.
Okay.
Okay. See, we have a waiting
Mr.
room. Okay. Okay, Marion Dozier.
Mr. Hurd.
Mr. Director, Executive Director. Mr. Director, can you hear me?
Yes.
Executive
Yes.
Director, would you go a step further, please, and explain to Ms. Lockhart about the procedure? You dwelt on it a little bit. You talked about it a little bit, but explain to her that you were contacting the persons in the due time, that they've had adequate time, that maybe she can go back and talk to whomever it is that she needs to talk to make certain that, as our city, we begin being a bit, a bit more timely about taking care of business matters. You want to explain a little bit more to her about when she was appointed, what should have happened right after then, et cetera, et cetera. And Mr. Chairman, is that okay? Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Per your request, Attorney Russell, Ms. Lockhart.
Yes.
Okay. We know that the mayor made a recommendation for your appointment, and he made your appointment, and it was confirmed 4-1 by City Council. However, as I stated earlier, the Housing Authority has not received any official notification, either via letter or certificate. I've been in contact with both the mayor and the city attorney, as well as the clerk, providing them with examples of what a certificate process may be.
Okay.
By statute, the mayor is to notify the city clerk and provide a certificate of appointment. But as I stated, we are not in receipt of that as of yet. So until such time, we cannot make it official. But once again, I'm glad you joined us so that you can get a feel and understanding about this board. Are there any
They
questions?
call it feet wedding.
I'm sorry?
Alexa,
Yes.
Mr. Hurt wants to know if did you have any questions?
No, I understand that I have not received, or you all have not received, a certificate of appointment. I just wanted to attend the meeting so that I can be brought up to speed.
Good.
Okay,
All right.
very good.
You guys ready to start?
If you are, sir.
Can we have I'm sorry, Mr. Spears?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
Before you get to disclosures, and I realize it, I'm going to say to Mr. DeSpiritus that the answer is yes, to make certain that he's properly covered so that no time comes when it's said that he should have announced that he had a conflict and he didn't. So the answer is going to be yes, Mr. Commissioner, when he gets to you. All righty?
Yeah.
And the disclosure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Also, Mr. Chair, I would want to advise everyone that we are recording this meeting on Zoom.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I go back? Were we doing disclosures? Did I miss that?
Yes, and when we get to disclosures, I will explain to Ms. Lockhart what we're referring to.
Okay, thank you.
Can we observe a moment of silence? And can we have the Pledge of Allegiance by Delvin Thomas? All right.
Good job, Mr. Hurt.
Hey, we tried.
Allegiance,
The flag.
flag of the United
United
States
States
of
of
America,
America and to the republic
Republic
for which it stands,
It stands
one
one
nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. We're gonna have to do like church service and have repeat after me.
Right. We're gonna have call to order. Roll call. Mr. Hurt.
Commissioner Jeffrey Jackson,
Here.
Commissioner Jessica Thurman,
Here.
Commissioner Delvin Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Horace Towns, note that he's absent. Commissioner Glenn Spiritus.
here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before I ask for disclosures, I'd like to tell Ms. Lockhart what disclosures are. So Ms. Lockhart, under disclosures, so when commissioners may be tied to business that may interact or cause to question any questions or concerns by a citizen or anyone in government, that a person may feel that the board member should have spoken up about that particular business. So for instance, in my case, I am the chairperson for the Thousand Oaks Homeowners Association, and the Housing Authority owns a property in Thousand Oaks. So therefore, that's close enough for that's something that I should disclose. to the public before each meeting, before any significant business began. And as such, I am disclosing now that I am on the board at Thousand Oaks Community HOA, and the Housing Authority owns a property in that community.
Okay.
Is there another?
You ready for me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to disclose that I am a consultant for a developer. We're building 250 units, senior citizen affordable housing in New York. I was also hired by the Village of Hempstead last week as a consultant to handle their downtown revitalization.
Thank you. Is there any other?
Good evening.
Hearing none.
Good evening.
I'm sorry.
Good evening. This is Ms. Horn.
Hi, Ms. Horn.
How are you doing?
We're fine.
Good. Thank you.
So, is there any other disclosures? Hearing none, we're going to move forward. Annual election of officers and chairperson, vice chair, board attorney, Matthew Russell. You want to take it over?
Thank you very much.
And I do have a question, Mr. Attorney. Would it be appropriate to do this tonight, or should we postpone it until next meeting? And it seemed like it would be proper to wait until Ms. Lockhart would be seated.
That's a good question, though, Mr. Chairman, and we're in somewhat of a dilemma here, because, and it's very similar to the situation on the national level where the election for a president will be in November, but the swearing in doesn't take place right until January. And so the period of time between November and January, the sitting president still has the authority. And it's unfortunate in this situation that we find ourselves in this bind, something that should have been taken care of, and perhaps with Ms. Lockhart aboard, and those of you who are present members of the board, we can begin talking to our council persons and seeing to it, and that they will maybe sit in on some of our meetings and find out that it's real business, and we do it business-like in a timely fashion. But I'm saying to you that looking at our bylaws, I don't see an allowance for us not doing the meeting. It says in section 1 of Article 3, the annual meeting of the authority shall be held on the second Tuesday of May at 7:00 p.m. at the regular meeting place. Okay.
That's pretty straightforward.
Yes, sir.
In that, I would ask you to move us forward in the nominations.
Okie dokie. Iterating what I just read to you from Article 3, Section 1 about the annual meeting being on the second Tuesday of May. Then call your attention to Section 6 of Article 2, which has to do with election and appointment. The chairperson and vice chairperson shall be elected at the annual meeting of the Board of Commissioners from among the commissioners, and shall hold office for 1 year or until successors are elected and qualified. Now, the agenda calls for, at this point, nominations as it relates to chairperson, and then after that, the same thing for vice chair. I'm going to offer you some options that you might want to consider and take a moment to think about them. We can, the chair, and I'm referring to myself now as the chair, will entertain a motion to keep persons who are in office in that office, or there could be a motion for nominations separately, or we could say by way of motion that assuming that there are more than 3 persons named, the highest person, the highest vote is chairperson, and the second number will be vice chair. Once again, let me go over it. We can follow the agenda as outlined, where we do nominations for chairperson, and then we take a vote, and then we determine who wins, and then we could do it for vice chair, or there can be a motion that we accept the persons who are presently in office, or we can take them separately. The chair will now listen to a motion.
I move to keep the officers that's in place where they currently are. Jeffrey Jackson as chair and Commissioner Jessica Thurman as vice chair.
Is there a second to that
I
motion?
second that motion.
The motion has been seconded. Motion was made and seconded. A motion made by Commissioner Thomas and seconded by Commissioner Spiritus. Discussion.
None.
Discussion. Anyone? Opportunity?
None.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Executive Director?
Yes. Commissioner Jeffrey Jackson. Commissioner,
You're
Yes.
okay. Commissioner,
voting on the motion. What is it? Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thurman,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Spiritus.
Yes.
The motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Thank you very much, commissioners. So we now have the chairperson, Mr. Jeffrey Jackson, and our vice chair, Mrs. Jessica Thurman. And congratulations to both of you. And Mr. Chairman, if you will allow me, because after this, you will then go into your appointments to the committees. May I call on Ms. Thurman first to say what she wants to say to us as per this election, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you?
Yes.
Ms. Thurman?
I just want to say thank you all for your confidence and re-elected me as vice chairwoman.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, Ms. Thurman? Yeah, you're not forced to, but is there anything else you want to say? Okay. All righty, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to you. Are you ready to take over?
Thank you. I am.
I think you have appointments to various committees, et cetera, and you are familiar with this. Congratulations to you. All right.
Yes, sir. I do want to thank you guys for your support and for your continued support. And we hope to do big things. Our collaborations are growing every day, and I'm confident that we're going to do some very positive things in the future in this city. And Ms. Lockhart, I want to welcome you aboard, and looking forward to meeting you. Corona and her cousin virus delayed our meeting, but we'll get through this, and so we'll be moving forward. And later I will speak to Commissioner Thomas, and so I'll save my comments for you, Commissioner Thomas, later before we adjourn the meeting. In that, so it brings us to appointment for commission subcommittees by chairperson. The Finance Committee is Mr. Towns. The Community Relations Committee is Ms. Thurman. Section 3 is Mr. Spiritus. And I have the Development Committee. I want to add a committee. I spoke to Mr. Hurd about this, and Ms. Lockhart, I've taken the privilege of finding out a lot of things about you, and I want you to, I didn't tell you, but my day job is I'm sort of the police, so I get to find out a lot of things about people. I'm kidding. Well, I take that back. No, I'm not kidding. I found out a lot of things about you. But so, Mr. Hurd, what committee was that I talked about?
Mr. Chairman, you recommended that we create a committee on marketing.
Yeah,
That is correct.
I love that. My degree is in public relations and
I
marketing.
knew that.
That's
So,
great.
we want to create a marketing committee, and so I think that's probably been a missing piece to it. We have a lot of work to do, guys, and I feel really good about us going forward. and doing the body of work that we have to do, and we should seek out people with talent, surround ourselves. In Ms. Lockhart, what you can do is you can get a chairperson, someone other than yourself to do work. You can create a committee, 3, 4, 5 people on it with you. I'm not going to tell you to go out there and get 20 people and you have 20 different ideas about how you should market something and everybody pulling at your coattail. But certainly you should have a group of supporters, some people that, will assist you in all of your efforts and your ideals.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you move forward, may I make a suggestion to you?
Yes, sir.
I'm suggesting, for at least our consideration, not necessarily action this evening, that we think in terms of having somebody as an official liaison between, and I know various members of it, I know the executive director and you and others talk to various council persons. I'm talking about an official liaison between the board and city council. Quite often there's just misinformation and information from this person and that person. I'm not saying it's something you will approve. I'm simply saying maybe as a board you will think about it for some action in the future. If you choose.
Mr. Hurt, I like that idea. Mr. Hurt, I would ask you to put that on the next agenda.
Yes, Mr.
Did you hear me, Mr. Hurt?
Yes, sir.
And once we get, I would also like, although I want to create that committee, and I've asked Ms. Lockhart to do it, I will wait until the next meeting before we take a vote on it or make it official, because by then maybe she'll be sworn in on the board. We'll have all the all the documentation that we need, and we'll make it so at that time. Regarding the marketing committee.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Also, may I indicate that you did not name a chairperson of the development subcommittee?
I'm going to do it myself.
Okay, just wanted to be clear for the record.
I think you missed on that, Mr. Hurt. I did say it.
Oh, you did? My apologies.
Yes, sir.
My apologies, then I did miss it.
So with that,
Mr. Chairman, may I say one other thing, please?
Yes, sir. Yes.
We'll be going into the regular meeting, and I would remind us, different from some other boards and committees, with this board, we receive the privilege of speaking, the opportunity to, when we address the chair. So we want to remind everyone to be sure to address the chair. The chair then recognizes you for your opportunity to say whatever it is you're going to say. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So, Ms. Lockhart, you did understand that, right? So, particularly when we're having business like this, the goal there is to identify each speaker. So if there's ever a read back in a court setting, or if anyone wanted to know who said what when, it will be on the record. And clearly that person would have been recognized and then speaking, and their comments will be their comments.
I understand.
Okay. There was a, just before I move on, I'd like to, I'm sorry, I missed the young lady's name. My memory is bad. There was a guest that was in the audience. Do you have a comment?
Ms. Horn?
Everything's going well. This is Ms. Horn.
Ms. Horn, everything's good?
It's good.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting. The time is now 7:25 p.m. and we'll be moving into our regular meeting.
Okay. Mr. Chair, may I remind all the participants, I think we have a 2-hour limit on this Zoom meeting. This is the first time I coordinated the meetings on Zoom, so I'm just reminding you, just in case we go blank after 2 hours. If that happens, then I will try to reestablish a meeting if necessary.
All right. Either that or we'll push everything until the following month. I think we can do it though. Are you ready?
I
Hold
am
on,
ready,
I'm
Mr.
about to
Chair.
go. Let's call this meeting to order. The time is 7:26 p.m. Can we have a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Spiritus?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of
United
America
and
and
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under
uh,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is like harmony. You guys are getting more in sync now. Mr. Hurt, you're still getting ahead of everybody. We got to get this Zoom thing down to get it down. Roll call, please, Mr. Hurt.
Yes, Chairman Jeffrey Jackson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jessica Thurman,
Here.
Commissioner Delvin Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Horace Towns, absent. Commissioner Glenn Spiritus.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Mr. Hurt.
No items on the consent agenda, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Additions and deletions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
no, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, sir. You're right. Right on point. I stand corrected. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, Mr. Hurt, are there any?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would just like to point out to the board that I took the privilege in consulting with you to move public comments from the end of the agenda to the top of the agenda. And on this agenda, we place it at item number 5. I would need a board approval for that because that's not our standard agenda. I will be asking the board for consideration in the future to revise the bylaws that would revise the order of the agenda. But for this evening's agenda, I ask the board to approve the change for public comments to item number 5. In addition to that, Mr. Chair, I put an item for public comments after every action item. So after our 2 resolutions are introduced, we will take the opportunity for public comment, if that's the pleasure of the board.
So move on recommendations of the director to reorder the agenda.
Motion made by Commissioner Thomas. Can I have it seconded?
Seconded.
Motion's been made, motion been seconded by Mr. Spiritus. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion moved 4-0. Did I hear you say something, Mr. Hurt?
Not yet, Mr. Chair. I thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for March 10th, 2020.
Can I have a motion?
So move.
Motion, we accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Spiritus and seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion? Hearing none,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Public comment. Any public comment at this time?
I have a public comment. I
Yes.
would just like to say that I am grateful for this appointment. I'm ready to get started, ready to get on board to make this process as smooth as possible to move the city forward.
Great, great. Anyone have any comments about that? Want to comment?
Alexis, welcome to the Housing Authority. I hope you will come in and jump right in, and every opportunity that's allowed to you take advantage of. And any support you need from me, and like I did with everybody else that came on this board, you got it. So any questions, there is no dumb question, but you got to ask it. To not ask and not to know, that's the dumb part. So always ask and get an answer. So we're all here and we all support staff. No matter where we are, we're here and our phones are always open.
Thank you.
That is true, Alexis. This body, unlike many you have probably seen, we are really close. We look out for each other. If you're in Georgia and need a way home, you can call in the middle of the night and you'll get home. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Every board member, you'll be provided with every board member's phone number, so you'll know how to reach us. Commissioner Thomas was the longest standing person on this board, and he was a wealth of knowledge and support to me when I came on the board, and I know he'll do the same to you as it was done for him. And so that's kind of how this board has always ran, and we're just a bunch of people who just want to do good for the city, not being pulled by any friends or family members or any of that stuff to do their bidding, but to do your own bidding. The mayor championed you to be on this board, and the commissioners placed you on this board, and we support you being on this board. And I want to applaud you for being young and wanting to get involved. There's so much to learn, and I know that you can learn everything, and I know it's within your capacity, and everybody just have support you and looking forward to you doing big things.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
You're welcome. Mr. Hurt, any comments?
There's no other public comments at this time. I'm sure if there's anyone else participating in the meeting and would like to have any opportunity to speak during this time, they're so welcome. But hearing none or
I
seeing
just
no.
want to say,
Mr.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Go ahead.
This is to Alexis. I just want to welcome you, and I piggyback on everything the chair and Commissioner Delvin Thomas said, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay. We the two women on the
Yes.
board. We got a lot of work to do.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I do think if we don't do it tonight, some other time we need to. I certainly have no problems with public comments coming where they are on the agenda, but we need to talk about that. Is this a comment about anything in general? Is it about a particular item on the agenda? We need to give it some thought and really need to nail it down so that we will know exactly what it is that is understood by public comments in 5.
Mr. Hurt,
yes.
Mr. Hurt, is it your ideal and thought that we should, for every item of substance, those things that we might be making motions on, you want public comment before the motion?
I think the protocol should be that public comments would be made prior to action taken on the topic, so that the public has the opportunity to comment on a particular agenda action item. To speak to Attorney Russell, the first public comments is a general public comment opportunity that the public can speak on any issue as it relates to the housing authority at that time under the first public comments. And then after we introduce each action item prior to the motion and vote, that the public has the opportunity to make comments. And may I defer to Attorney Russell? Maybe I'm not clear. Should a motion be taken prior to the comment on the action, Attorney Russell, or should that public comments be made before a vote taken on the action?
It's my opinion that the comments should be made, or comments should be made before the action is taken on a particular item. That is before the vote takes place. But I want to go to something else, Mr. Hurt. You know, previously, and you and the members of the board can correct me if I'm in error, you know, we had a requirement that if you had a desire to speak, address any item on the agenda, that was to be sent into us prior to, or at least sometime before the beginning of the meeting. Are we dispensing with that requirement now? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Mr. Chair, Attorney Russell, that is correct. In the notice, I had indicated that if one wanted to speak on public comments or a particular item, they could, and under this particular format, they can email me their public comment. That was posted in the notice. However, it's one of my challenges here in managing this meeting. I don't have direct access to my emails. I have to figure out how to bring that up. If you bear with me a moment, let me see.
Mr. Chairman, during the interim, may I ask you a question? Is as it relates to, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, sir.
As it relates to the notice about meetings, is that a may or a shall as it relates to the public comment? You may or you shall let us know about the agenda item on which you plan to speak. Is it that you may or that you shall? Do you understand the significance and why it's different, Mr. Hurt?
Yes, Attorney Russell, I'm clear. As I indicated, I put the directions in the notice, and if you bear with me, I can try to bring up the notice for all to see, and we can look at the language that was in the notice, in the meeting notice, and if someone wants to comment on it, they can, if you can bear with me. Let me see if I can bring that up.
Mr. Hurt,
Chair.
I think that the public comment, I mean, I don't have a problem with it being in there. I understand we do want to make sure the public have a voice and opportunity to share with us their thoughts and feelings on agenda items. But I would like to make it number 7 and push up the financial report and the, we'll be pushing up the financial report. And so that if they ask a question that you want to address in the executive director's report, you can.
Mr. Chair, I think the goal here was to have the public have the opportunity to speak on items prior to any board's deliberation, so that they could have input that the board could consider, prior to any deliberation. However, that it's the pleasure of the board as to what they want to do. I can only say
that.
I don't know.
I understand what you're.
Mr. Chair, do you see? Is this being shared with the body about public comments here? Can we all read those that are in the?
It's currently just showing the agenda.
Yeah, that's all. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm only seeing from 12 on on the agenda from 12
Oh, okay.
to 14.
I'm trying to, I tried to pull this other document up, but I guess I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. Let me try one more time.
Chair Jackson,
Yes.
can we move from this? And because obviously, you know, Mr. Hurt is new to this Zoom thing until we could try to maximize, you know, the capabilities. I know Mr. Hurt trying to move around. Mr. Hurt, recommendation, you may want to get another computer that you can have your emails and your agenda on separate from this one, so it's easier for you to navigate back and forth. So,
Yeah.
not trying to take away from your technological savvy, but we know. So Mr. Jackson,
Yeah.
can we move this agenda forward and get down the road a little bit?
Thank you, Mr. Hurt. We're going to save this time, Mr. Hurt. We just burnt 15 minutes. So we're going to move on to the financial report for April.
Okay, I'm not going to burden this meeting. If there's anyone that has any questions about the financial report for April, I will gladly answer them. If not, the financial report for May.
Financial report for May.
If there's any questions, I'll gladly answer them. If not, Mr. Chair, I'll just ask you to receive and file.
Receive and file. Can we go to the Executive Director's report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, you have in your packet the Executive Director's report for activities since our last meeting of March 10th, 2020. Unfortunately, we did not have a meeting in April, but since then, as we know, Harrington State Senior is 100% complete, fully leased. You have all that information about the contact there. We are still trying to coordinate a meeting between the management staff and the Riviera Beach Police Department for a couple issues. One, for the police to be able to have emergency access to the building, and second, to assist management in any potential incidents in the meeting so that we can discuss some safety issues and access issues. Other than that, we have Mr. Brian Finney of the Housing Trust Group with us in the meeting, and he can certainly add any other comment he would like. Mr. Finney?
Just before Brian, Mr. Finney?
Yes, sir.
How are you? Welcome aboard.
Doing fine. How are you? Good evening.
Great. Mr. Hurt, you said you wanted Mr. Finney to address something?
Yeah, did you have any comments on Harrington State Senior at this point, Mr. Finney?
No, sir.
Okay. If not, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Hurt, I do have something, yes. I know that, you know, we're doing things in the building there, and just today, Jessica and I went down to have a meeting over there and to meet some people and help Jessica distribute some food and stuff. And so I think we should have access to that lobby, the commission, just as the police. Mr. Finney,
are you talking about the meeting rooms upstairs? What are we talking about?
No, just your lobby area there. The meeting rooms upstairs would be nice too, wherever we're going to do the drop off at when we're bringing items. We don't know how long this thing is going to last, and I think it would behoove us to do it, to have access instead of having to wait on someone to come down and open a door or hold the door for us.
Okay, so the two, yes, I agree you should have access, and I will have a discussion with management about giving John a key so we can facilitate that. But as you know, when we do phase 2, you will have an office on site, and that will alleviate the need to have access to the senior building. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Not necessarily, because if we're going to assist the seniors with anything, we would still need access. Because if something happens in the middle of the night, I'm just down the street. We could be down there assisting them, and we don't know how the police department might be burdened, and so we could be another layer of resource for them.
Again, we will give the executive director of the housing authority the key. I caution you on the liability issues, but again, that will be your call.
Right, and I did speak to your persons today about that, and they'll tell you what I talked about.
Okay.
And I'll give you a call.
If there are any discussions with the management, I know about it. So if I need to facilitate something, I can.
Great, they're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Good to hear.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yes.
I think we can put if we want to speak, we can always put our hand up. I just want to remind everybody if they wanted to speak. Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Finney knows that Vice Chairwoman Thurman is delivering meals to the building every day. And so I think if we had some better sort of, as opposed to a key, isn't there electronic access to the building by code or some other method?
Again, John, the key is a metaphor for access, whichever way is the best way to do that, we can sit down and talk about it. It's just a metaphor, John.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Finney. Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
So,
if I may continue, Heron Estates family.
Please do.
Heron Estates family, I think I sent the board the last family report that we were in receipt from Heron Estates, from HTG on Heron Estates family. I sent that separately.
Yep.
However, I certainly give Mr. Finney the opportunity to update us on the status of Heron Estates family. Mr. Finney?
Mr. Finney?
I think, as you know, the major takeaway is that we are preparing for closing. And to be quite frank with you, I've spent more time over the last month or so in dealing with communications between the city and the housing authority relative on the construction side of the project. With that being said, we are now prepared to move forward and working diligently to close this thing and start construction in August.
Great.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would just like to remind the board that as it relates to Heron Estates family, we have recently appeared before City Council. They raised their questions, and one of the things that was promised as a result of our appearance is that we would provide council with some information as it relates to local participation.
Mr. Chair.
That has always been yes. That local participation has always been very important to us, and I think we've demonstrated that. And the notion that anyone would have to help us identify local participants, well, they just didn't pay attention to how much effort and money we put behind identifying those who had the ability to participate the first time around. We'll continue in that vein. Mr. Thomas, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was going to ask Mr. Finney, can we discuss that while we're on the subject right now, sir?
Can we discuss?
The contractors and the local participation.
Okay, we're gonna pursue the same path we pursued last time, and it's broken down into two primary phases. The first phase is our outreach. During phase one, as you know, we held meetings in each of the commission districts, and on top of that, the housing authority held two meetings citywide. We hired a consultant to help us outreach to the community. I believe we published a substantial document. Many subs were referred for potential engagement. John has a report of, and I don't think it's a complete report, a report of who we used to date, but that report does not also indicate the MBEs that worked in partnership on the project. And the numbers generated from that partnership, from what I understand, is pretty substantial. Again, we are going, on phase 2, we're going to match and exceed what we did on phase 1. And we are in the process of doing that now. John has made some 8A referrals to us. The Marsden Group is contacting all those firms and getting their paperwork ready to be submitted directly to the contractor, in addition to some other firms that we've identified. So we expect to have a robust, we're gonna go beyond the classic the MB procurement. We're actually gonna negotiate with the prime contractor to make sure that the people we recommend have a good shot and get work on this project.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, do you have another comment?
No, I have none at this moment. Thank you, Mr. Finney. Appreciate all your support, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I may
Yes.
continue, if there's no other
Please.
questions regarding Heron Estates family at this time, our other development initiatives, we are still looking at possible development issues along Avenue E. They're in various stages of development and discussion. The latest being a partial at 13th and E that we are working with the CRA as we speak. I think I shared some preliminary concepts with the board about that. So that's moving along at this time. And there are potentially 2 other projects along Avenue E in various stages of discussion. But those are the active off-site development issues at this time. And as we develop more, I will present them to the board.
Thank you.
11:30, I'm sorry, is there any questions about any other off-site development? If not, 11:30 West Blue Heron. There's, at this point in time, we're still working on trying to add security lighting for the exterior parking area and a possible gate at the rear of the breezeway there. Our recent tenant has a toddler, so we're concerned that we have a gate leading to the rear of the property because there's a canal in the back. So we want to do all that we can as preventive measures and provide additional security to the site. NSP properties, as I indicated, the refurbishing of 29th Street is complete with the exception of the garage. We're working to finish the garage. It has the railings and the motor has to be replaced, and we're in the process of doing that. We've also done work at 167 East 23rd. We just installed a new screen door at the front entry and repaired the screening on the patio. In addition to that, we did a roof treatment to revitalize the roofing tile and to seal it and replace all missing tile. We're in the process of getting bids for gutters at 167. And once all of that's done, we have some concrete work to do to seal it to prevent moisture penetration. That's, as far as the other 3 buildings, there are no real outstanding issues at this point. Other activities, we've already discussed our meeting in front of City Council where Commissioner Thomas, Brian Finney, and Ron Davis participated. to respond to City Council's questions. Also observed at that same meeting that the mayor appointed Alicia Lockhart to the commission for the expired term of Commissioner Thomas. Most of,
Alexis.
I'm sorry, someone had their hand up?
Yes, Ms. Thurman.
I believe it was.
I'm
Ms.
sorry for
Lockhart.
something.
It's just instead of Alicia, Alexis, that's all.
Oh, my apologies. Thank you for the correction.
It's okay.
Alexis Lockhart.
Yes, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. All of the action items that you have in the report, most of them are still in process. As you know, a lot of activities have been curtailed because of our president's COVID-19 situation. So I beg the indulgence of the board until I can get through all of those action items. Other than that, unless there's some questions from the board, that concludes my executive director's report.
Thank you. Receipt and file. Can we have the authority report?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing?
Good evening.
Fine, fine.
Meeting.
I want to remind us, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, that we are still governed by Florida's sunshine law requirements, and that even though we might exchange telephone numbers, let's make certain that in the process of talking one commissioner to the other, that we never discuss any madams, any items, anything that's liable will come before this board. You know, their eyes on us, watching us closely. And we never want to be found in violation of the government and the sunshine law. I want to say to to Miss is it
Lockhart.
Miss Lockhart, that I'm available. You can call me if you have any questions about it's very similar to when I was teaching school and my kids were so tough on me, but the members of the board have come to appreciate my emphasis on Robert's Rules of Procedure. So if you have any questions, you can call me. You know, it's all right for you to talk to me. You can discuss any of the board business with me, but you cannot discuss board business with other members outside the confines of a board meeting. Additionally, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like for Mr. Chairman, if you are in agreement with it, I would like for the executive director, you and me, to talk a bit more about public comments. And in addition to that, did we decide tonight that public comments would come before the financial report or after? You suggested that they come after the financial. Where are we as it relates to that? What did we decide tonight?
We did not decide anything on it. We'll table it until next meeting.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, is it okay? You and the executive director and I, may we talk before the next meeting about the ramifications and what we're talking about as it relates to public comments?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I think that is it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, sir. Unfinished business. I see none. Mr. Hurt, let's go to, is there any unfinished business I'm aware of? Any member want to chime in? Hearing none. New business, Mr. Hurt.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, before we go into new business, just may I make a comment, Ms. Lockhart? I will be setting up at some point in time a briefing time with you, at which time I will brief you on the Housing Authority current and historical perspectives, and will provide you with all of the pertinent documents that you may need going forward. I find that it's so voluminous, I plan to provide that to you on a flash drive, if that's to your agreement.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Hurd.
Okay. I'm moving on to new business. Resolution 2020-07. It's a resolution approving the selection of the general contractor for Heritage Estates Family Development by co-developer Housing Trust Group, LLC. Whereas the Riviera Beach Housing Authority has entered into a master development agreement, MDA, with the Housing Trust Group, LLC, HTG, for the development of Heritage Estates Family, and has formed an ownership entity with HTG Heritage Estates Family, LLC. And whereas paragraph 6.5.1 subcontractors of the MDA outlines that the Riviera Beach Housing Authority has the right to approve all contracts in excess of $25,000. And whereas HTG has vetted 2 respondents and received cost proposals from two respondents. And whereas HTG has determined that Newport Property Construction, LTD, of Coral Gables, Florida, is the best respondent and wish to enter a contract for general contractor for the HTG family, Heritage Estates family. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Housing Authority of the City of Riviera Beach, Florida. 1, this resolution is adopted pursuant to the powers and authority granted under Florida statutes, section 421.08. 2, that the Riviera Beach Housing Authority has reviewed the general contract through its staff and development attorney, Saxon Gilmore and Caraway, PA. 3, that the Riviera Beach Housing Authority approves in the Newport Property Construction, LTD, as a general contractor for HTG Heritage Estates Family upon final review and approval by Saxon and Gilmore, PA, the Riviera Beach Housing Authority Development Attorney. Approved and adopted by the Housing Authority of the City of Riviera Beach, Florida, as of this 12th of May, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Can I get it seconded? Can I have a second? Ms. Thurman, second. Ms. Thurman, you gotta speak up. I don't know if something wrong with your. Ms. Thurman, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I apologize,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Motion passed.
Who made the motion and who
sorry?
second? Mr. Chair? Who
The
made the
motion was made by Commissioner Thomas. And it was made by Commissioner Thomas and seconded by Commissioner Thurman.
No, it was made by Glenn Spiritus.
I'm sorry, by Mr. Spiritus. And Ms. Thurman seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, that Mr. Spiritus.
Are there any public comments? Mr. Chair, can you
Hearing no public comments.
Okay. And
I raised public comments.
I've received no public comments via email. So at this point, the public comments are.
Yes. Have a, all in
Discussion?
favor? Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
nays?
Motion passed 4-0. No, there are no nays.
Thank you very much.
Resolution 2020-08, resolution authorizing the executive director to execute certain documents and certificate related to the Palm Beach County school impact tax exemption. Whereas the Riviera Beach Housing Authority, RBHA, has entered into a master development agreement, MDA, with Housing Trust Group, LLC, HTG, for the development of Heron Estates Senior. And whereas the RBHA owns the former Ivy Green Village site in fee simple through a declaration of trust by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, HUD. And whereas RBHA has made application for exemption for Heron Estates Senior Apartments for Palm Beach school impact fees to the Palm Beach County Planning, Zoning, and Building Department. And whereas certain documents and certification attached must be executed in order for the exemption to occur. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Housing Authority of the City of Riviera Beach, Florida. 1, this resolution is adopted pursuant to the powers and authority granted under Florida statutes section 421.08. 2, that the Riviera Beach Housing Authority Board of Commissioners have reviewed the attached agreements and certification prepared by staff and the development attorneys Saxon, Gilmore, and Caraway, PA. 3, that the Housing Authority shall enter into certain agreements between Palm Beach County, a political subdivision of the state of Florida, and the Housing Authority, a copy of which is attached hereto, the agreement, and be it. 4, that John W. Hurt, the Executive Director of the Housing Authority, is hereby authorized and instructed to execute the agreement and other instruments as may be necessary and appropriate for the Housing Authority to fulfill its obligations under the agreement. Approved and adopted by the Housing Authority of the City of Riviera Beach, Florida, as of this 12th of May, 2020. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hurt.
So move.
Motion is made by Commissioner Thomas. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
Motion's been seconded by Commissioner Thurman. Any discussion?
And Mr. Chair, I have a discussion I'd like to make.
Yes.
Is this for impact fees or is this a pilot for all taxes?
Essentially, this is a tax credit. This is a credit. So let me, if I can, just let me run through this. Right now, the senior property does not have to pay school impact fees because it's a senior structure. What we'd like, but it also has an impact waiver attached to the property. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign a deed restriction that says of the senior structures that no one for 90 units, everyone that lives in those units have to be above the age of 19. We don't touch the public housing units, but for the affordable housing units, there's a deed restriction. You can't be under 18 to live in a building. I mean, you can't be over, you can't be under 19 to live in a building. Once that deed restriction is signed, then what we're going to do is move that school impact fee credit availability to the family structure. When we move it to the family structure or the site, we're now eligible for a $138,000 tax credit, which basically at the end of the day is a cost savings on the project. It's not cash, it's just a tax credit cost savings on the family structure.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Finney, so you're saying that anyone in the senior project, no one can live in that building who's under 19 years old?
Yes, sir. We have a deed restricted to, we have agreed to a 62 and above, except for the public housing units, yes.
Right, so then you're gonna take that credit and you're gonna move it over to the family project?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got it 100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there any more questions, discussions? Hearing none, is there any public comment to the issue? Hearing none.
We call the
Roll
vote.
call.
All in favor?
Call the vote.
Roll call, I'm
Roll
sorry.
call.
Both of the resolutions should be by roll call. My apologies, Mr. Chair.
We can go back. Let's do this one first. Roll call?
Okay, roll call. Chairman Jackson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Thurman,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Towns is absent. Commissioner Spiritus.
Yes.
The resolution passes 4-0 with
Thank you.
Commissioner Towns being absent.
Thank you very much.
Now, Mr. Hurt, can we revisit, can you call the roll on resolution 2020-07?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Chairman Jackson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Thurman,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Towns absent. Commissioner Spiritus.
Yes.
Resolution passed 4-0 with Commissioner Towns absent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Committee reports. Community Relations Committee.
Hello,
Ms.
everybody.
Thurman?
I'll just keep it short. For the last 6 weeks, I've been given the opportunity to serve meals at Heron Estates. The Deerfield Housing Authority called me and said that there were funding available and that I could serve up to 100 meals a day. And I do that 7 days a week at Heron Estates. There was a need at the beginning for 60, and now there's 80. So for the last 6 weeks, it's been going well. We had some little hiccups, but I think we resolved them. I do have volunteers that help, but there has been an issue raised by the management. One of the residents started a food pantry, and some of the tenants were voicing their concerns, saying that they were not receiving those meal or that the grocery. I think it's groceries, I'm sure. It was my understanding that the person that was doing it, I may be wrong, the resident that was in charge of the food pantry.
Ms. Thurman,
Yeah.
I think we'll hold that part and we'll just address it.
Okay. All right, well, other than that, everything is going well. And that would conclude my community report.
Thank you. Development Committee, I don't have anything at this time. I have been following up with Mr. Hurt and I have been talking, and I've talked with Mr. Finney briefly a couple of times, and we'll speak again soon. And I'll be talking with Attorney Russell regarding the things that we spoke about. And so that concludes mine. Finance Committee, Mr. Towns is not in tonight. Mr. Hurt, did he give you anything to speak on?
He did not, but if it's a pleasure of the board, I would like to probably within a week call a workshop for our budget. We are due to have a budget revision, and I think the board needs to, we all need to sit down and assess our financial position as it stands now and as it goes forward for the rest of this fiscal year. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to request that we have a budget workshop. It may be a development and budget workshop to give this board the opportunity to review and discuss all those issues related to both finance and development.
Thank you. I like that idea. And I don't know how fast the city would move on placing Ms. Lockhart, but Mr. Thomas, I would like if you would be there.
Absolutely. I will always be around. Whatever I can do to be a support.
Thank you. Section 3, Commissioner Spiritus.
Nothing new, Mr. Chairman, but I'd like to thank Mr. Finney for taking an extra effort and trying to beat what he did in the senior project with the family project. And hopefully you'll get a good amount of people from Riviera Beach, good number of subcontractors.
Thank you. Mr. Spiritus, the HCV program recovery.
Nothing at this point. Obviously, we were held up with the coronavirus and going to Washington, and hopefully that'll clear up soon and we'll be able to make a trip.
All right.
We'll work with Mr. Hurt. We still have to do our thumbnail that we want to submit to Congress, to members of Congress and to HUD. So I'll work with Mr. Hurt on that in the next couple of weeks, if you're available, Mr. Hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to get back on target with that. And I have some additional ideas I'd like to discuss with you.
Great.
Right. General discussion. Anyone?
Mayor, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
it's not a general discussion, but perhaps there's a foregone conclusion, but maybe just to make certain about it, we can talk with Commissioner Towns, make certain that he will continue assuming chairmanship of the Finance Committee, unless someone knows already that he has said yes.
He intends on doing it, to the best of my knowledge. And if he should change, we'll address it once he changes. He's been married to that since he's been on the board.
Yes, sir. I don't know if you. Yes, sir. Okay. I was simply. Yes, sir. I'm not certain you understood. Did you? Maybe I wasn't clear. I was saying just make certain about it, but perhaps it's not necessary. So that's a mood issue. Then we'll consider it a mood issue. All right. We won't go into it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
General discussion. We won't have anything.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I may, given our discussions tonight, I would probably, not probably, I will put bylaws on the next agenda for the first reading for discussion and review. So I ask the commissioners, please review the bylaws so we will all be prepared to make the necessary revisions to that bylaw as we move to our bylaws as we move forward.
Thank you. Do anyone have any other comments before I begin?
Hey, real quick, Mr. Finney, on second phase, after close and start to finish, are we saying 12 months or how long before we can have that project start to completion?
The standard time frame is 14 months.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Anyone have anything else? Mr. Spiritus?
Nothing, just all please stay safe.
Ms. Thurman? Ms. Lockhart, you have anything?
This meeting has been very informative. I look forward to the workshop that Commissioner Hurt has suggested. And I hope to talk to you all individually to try to get to know each and every one.
Great. Mr. Finney, any closing comments? Mr. Finney?
Yes, sir. I was on mute. I was going to say this until later, but I'll just say this now. I thank you for tonight, and I thank you for allowing us to continue on phase 2. But I want to go back 3 or 4 years ago. There was a time that nobody believed that we could achieve what we've achieved today. It was 16 acres of vacant land In fact, it was so difficult to get funding for this project that I worked for the Related Companies, which is one of the biggest development companies in the state of Florida. And when I left Related and I went to Housing Trust Group, I asked Related, could I take this project with me? And would I have to pay for the transfer? They said, no, just take it. We don't care. Because they did not believe we could get it done. Nobody believed that we could get it done in Riviera Beach. Guess what? We got it done. But what is most important is that Delvin and the board members and John Hurt, we got together in that little shack night after night and began to plan this thing, and no one was there. The city didn't care, the development community didn't care, the banks didn't care, but you guys kept that light on. We came back time and time again, and now we are nearly completed our mission to redevelop that site. So it's with a bit of sadness that I see one of the key people who help us get to this point may in some form or fashion discontinue his relationship with the housing authority. As I get older, I now have realized that, you know, sometimes you get in a certain place and everything is perfect. And then when it gets perfect, then you realize that it's not going to last forever. Unfortunately, things don't last forever. But I do want to say, Delvin and the board members, thank you for helping us facilitate the development of Heron Estates. Thank you for supporting me personally when I was down. There were some dark days at the Housing Trust Group before we got the first building started. There were some dark days. You guys kept the light on, and Delvin always pushed me and to stand straight and move forward. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for all your support to get us to this point. Now, I'll shut up.
Thank you. I just want to say, Delvin, I can't tell you how much I thank you for your service. And, you know, you were bred to do this sort of thing. And I think God is at hand, and you'll go on and do some other big things. And I'm sure you'll do some big things alongside the housing authority. I'll tell you to go out and find us some more money, and let's do some big things. Rebrand yourself, remake yourself, continue to grow and get smarter at what you do, better at what you do, have bigger collaborations. And, you know, as Mr. Feeney said, you know, I remember coming on this board, and, you know, I remember a development group had this board, in my opinion, held hostage, you know, going nowhere. And we moved past them and signed contracts with HTG. And when nobody thought it would happen, we made it happen. This city had not had a housing for nearly 40 years. And the notion that anybody will come and tell us how to do anything, I would ask them to build something, to do something first, because we've done something and we'll continue to do something. We'll have another development up. In fact, I would venture to say we'll have a third development up before anybody in this city get anything done. If you hear my passion, that's where we are. And you know, if anybody's trying to move my position in terms of what I think we can accomplish, they're going to run into a brick wall. We're going to be the constant. We're going to back up our word time and time again, and we should boast about it. And everybody should know it is us who did it. And we're going to do some more big things. And we'll break ground on, we'll sign this contract, Mr. Finney, in over the summer, in July, hopefully. We'll break ground in August. We'll have a grand event on our breaking ground, and we'll have another celebration opening phase 2 before anybody do anything substantial. And when I say anybody doing anything substantial, I'm not talking about putting that on the back of the city leaders, but any other development company. We'll race everybody to the finish, and we'll finish first every time.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something, please?
Yes.
I would like to say to Delvin, it's been an honor serving with you. I've been on the board now for a little over a year. And I'd like to thank you for all your service, everything you've done for the city, you and the other board members, but especially you, because you're not going to be on the board anymore. I think that's a loss. But thank you for everything you've done.
And I also want to point out the fact that Ms. Lockhart, you hear us, we're saddened by Devin leaving, but at the same time, we're welcoming you with open arms. Your service cannot be underscored. You know, you're a man from your father. He was a great man. He served this city. And so you just fell into his shoes. And I'll tell you to keep walking. And I know you're going to do some big things. And we're here for you. We'll be reaching out to you. And you know that you can always reach out to us as well. So we're family on this board. And Ms. Lockhart, you just walked into another family.
Thank you. And Commissioner Thomas, I look forward to speaking with you soon as well. I thank you so much for extending your hand out for support. I really, really appreciate it. And I just really appreciate that. And I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'd like to take the time to just thank everybody. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you all.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I just may finally say, it saddens my heart to see Mr. Thomas leave this board. He was here when I got here. He was part of the team that brought me here. These past 9 years has been very challenging, but the stable thing in this tenure of 9 years has been Mr. Thomas. It's with heartfelt thanks, sir, for what you brought to this board, the relationship that you developed with me. I can only wish you, most success in your future endeavors. But more than that, I think beyond that, I will always be in your life, and just take care of yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. But today is a big day, and it just happens my father's birthday is today, and everyone know I lost pops in the last couple of months, but you know what this city meant to him. So for us to get to this point, and for me to help lead us to this point, it's been a blessing. So I'll be around, and I will be definitely in touch with everyone and making sure that we get to the finish line on phase 2 and continue to build relationships with new people that's trying to come into the city and do business, and make sure that we get those relationships and those investors that want to come in and see change. So I thank you all for that. Moving forward, I have started my own development company as well, and I am doing business throughout the state of Florida, and it's a blessing, So I thank you for all your support. Attorney Russell, you sitting over there, Lax, and I appreciate you, Attorney Russell. We bumped heads, but we bump heads because leaders bump heads. But I took your advice, and you took my advice. We fed off each other, so I appreciate that. Commissioner Spiritus, thank you for your short time and just jumping right in and being a voice and bringing your expertise to the table. Very, very appreciative of that. I see I got to look around. Miss Thurman, she disappeared. Miss Thurman, Miss Thurman she on Jeff's computer over here. Miss Thurman, I appreciate you for jumping in and doing what you can from where you're at, and always just looking out for the people in the community. And you all know that my job is have everyone have a seat at the table. And when the table gets short, make it a little longer so somebody else can have a seat at the table. But I think it's bringing our community together and making sure that we have each other's back no matter what. And it has to start with us. Ms. Doge, I see you over there having a hot flash as normal. Thank you for everything you've done. You've been with me in this the longest with this ride. You've seen the disorder, the dysfunction, and all the craziness, and the eight hour meetings, the crazy meetings that we've had. So you've been here a long time and watched a lot of things. So I definitely appreciate you. But you all, I will always be around. I'm a telephone call away, and I'll still be in your meetings virtually and whatnot. So I got to make sure everybody's on their job. Mr. Davis, I see you over there. You're doing the most on your phone or whatever you got going on. But I appreciate you as well, Mr. Davis.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Ron, do you have any comment?
No, Mr. Chair. I will say that I have enjoyed working with this entire board, but I work with Delvin, and I've known Delvin, of course, since he was a little boy, and I've seen him grow, and I enjoy working with him, and I'm sure he and I will work together on some additional things. So I'm pleased with the progress of this board. You know, as a former city manager in Riviera Beach, this is a very progressive board as far as I'm concerned, and you're moving forward. And certainly, I'll be continuing with you in a number of capacities. So, all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Horn, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do, and thank you, Chairman Jackson. I would like to thank Mr. Thomas for his level of professionalism, his vigor and passion for the Housing Authority and the citizens of this community. Well wishes to you, and your path is brighter. It will be. All the best to you.
Thank you, Ms. Horn. I appreciate that. And Commissioner Jackson, as I pass the torch, you know where I stand. You know my passion. You know how I function. You know my mindset on how we get things done. And I expect you to do that. And I'm going to hold your feet to the fire to make sure it gets done.
I know you will. I see your Muhammad Ali picture back there. He's always ready for a fight.
Absolutely.
And we need that. We really got to put our best foot forward, put our thinking caps on, and always fight to push things forward for the citizens of this city. And that's what we're committed to. It's great being a part of a board where you know everybody's heart is in the right place, and we're just supportive of one another in and out of our disagreements about how something should be done. And my hat just goes off to each and every one of you. Mr. Spiritus brings a wealth of knowledge. I consider him a mentor. I consider Mr. Hurt a mentor. Attorney Russell, God just blessed, put a lot of people around me to help me, and I thank all of you guys. And now we're bringing on some new, young, fresh blood. Miss Lockhart got some big shoes to fill. But Delvin, I think she if she come out swinging, I'm gonna have to let you know she's up to it.
I'm gonna be around watching. And Miss Lockhart, keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. It's okay to disagree as long as at the end of the disagreement you agree. It's all right. The whole thing is at the table, you could disagree, you could argue, you could damn near get ready for blows. But at the end of it, you hug it, shake it out, and walk it off. And the whole thing is to move forward. Never let a disagreement stop you from moving forward. A decision has to be made. Somebody has to make the decision. Make the decision and move forward. That's the best advice I could give you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It takes all kind of people, and God has certainly surrounded me with a bright bunch of people, and I'm appreciative. And I always pray that He have me in the right place at the right time, doing the right things, and surrounding me with the right help. And cause no one of us is greater or smarter than all of us. Collectively, there's very little that we can accomplish if we put our minds to it and be patient, and everything will be handed to us in God's time. It was time for a new housing development. We have one. It's time for another. We're going to have that one, and we're just going to keep moving forward. We're going to reshape and repicture this city. A decade from now, when people look back, this city will look different, and we will be largely responsible for it. That's my hope. That's my dream and goal, and I think we all share in that. Godspeed, and I am going to call this meeting to adjourn.
At what time, Mr. Chair?
Time now is 8:35.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Be safe.
Good night. Thank you all.
Be safe.
Be safe. God bless.